What's up? Juno here. And recently I was given something, well, assigned something I should say, because this is something I use for work, that I was kind of excited about. It was a surprise when I received it, but while I think there are some good things about it, a lot of the things that I use in my day-to-day, there tends to be a lot of letdowns that I've noticed with this new device that I've had to play with for the last few weeks. And I'm going to share with you some things I like about it and a lot of things that I don't like about it compared to my old previous device that used to fill this role. So what did I get? Well, I'll show it to you first and then we'll start talking about it. And what I got was, I got one of the new 15-inch MacBook Pros. As you can tell, it only has a couple ports over here. We've got on the right side, we've got two Thunderbolt 3 ports and a headphone jack, and we've got two ports on this side, more Thunderbolt 3, and that's it. And when I first saw this being announced, because I did watch the keynote when this product was announced, this is the late 2016 model of the 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro. This one has been upgraded a little bit compared to a standard configuration. This one has the 2.6 gigahertz i7 quad-core processor, 16 gigs of RAM. It has the Radeon 450 discrete graphics card in it, which is also rated at 2 gigs, and it has a 1 terabyte SSD. The approximate cost of this computer in its current configuration is approximately $3,000, which I think is obscene for a device like this. Then again, my last computer, which was a 2014 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro with every option available, I believe it had a 2.8 gigahertz i7 quad-core, 16 gigs RAM, 1 terabyte, and an NVIDIA, I want to say 470M graphics card with 1.5 gigs of RAM. There are some ways this one actually performs better in terms of doing video compressions and stuff like that that I deal with than my old computer, but then there are some things about my old one that were better than this one, which I'm going to go into detail now. Now, there are some things I do like physically about this, and one of them is going to sound maybe a little contradictory, but one thing I do like by the fact that they're using the same ports everywhere, although they've gotten rid of ones that I would have preferred to have, like a standard USB, for example. It's all now dongles. I've got dongles out the ass. Right here I've got a USB Type-C to standard USB Type-A 3.0, and then I have a Thunderbolt 3 to Thunderbolt 2. And these get a lot of use. I actually have more of these sitting on my desk at work, but those are the ones I carry with me that I typically use sometimes when I'm outside of work. By having the same ports, it's kind of nice because occasionally I have to move this around, because normally when I'm at work and sitting at my desk, I have to run other systems, and I've got two 27-inch Thunderbolt displays on my desk at work, which is very nice. And when this is docked, this performs like a different animal compared to when I'm mobile. But before I get into that, so I do occasionally have to move the power around. Sometimes I have to put it on the left, sometimes I have to put it on the right, depending on where it's sitting on my desk. Another thing that I really like about it is the new keyboard. Frankly, the keys are a lot better. I'm faster on this keyboard than I was on my old one, and I prefer that. Personally, the trackpad is a little obscenely large. I've hit it by accident a bunch of times, and yeah, that's kind of a problem. And normally when I'm sitting at my desk, I'm using an external mouse and keyboard anyway, because I don't like trackpads. They annoy the fuck out of me. I kind of wish it had a memory card reader on it, although I don't really use it that much, and I still personally own a 13-inch previous gen MacBook Pro. It's a late 2013 model, and yeah, so again, there are some things I don't like about this, which I think I'm going to go into detail now. Oh, well, actually, one other positive. In terms of size and weight, even though this is physically the same size screen and everything like that compared to my previous one, it's noticeably lighter when I'm walking around with it, because I do commute. I have been commuting lately on the train to work, and so I spend a lot of time with this strapped to my back in my messenger bag. And I've noticed over time, this one feels a little bit lighter. It doesn't feel as heavy in the back. Well, it is thinner, and I've felt the two side by side, and that one definitely feels a little bit lighter, which I prefer. I actually prefer the 13-inch size for portability more so than the 15, but you can't get like quad-core processors and discrete graphics in the 13-inch model. Now, let's get into the things I don't like about this. First and foremost, I think the touch bar is kind of a gimmick, personally. When I'm using this at my desk, docked, using my two screens, the lid is closed and it is tucked away out of sight. I'm using an external keyboard and mouse. I don't use the touch bar at all. I think I've used the Touch ID on it once or twice. That's kind of a gimmick to me. I use it docked. I need a laptop because I need to roam around with the type of work I do, so I need to be able to remote in and stuff like that. But I don't use the touch bar. Another thing, getting back to the power situation, I missed the MagSafe 2 for a couple of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is with my old computer, I didn't have to walk around with my charger. Since I use Thunderbolt displays, it has a MagSafe 2 charger built in, so I could leave my charger at home or at my office, and when I'm at my office, I could just plug in the screen cable for the resolution and connecting to the two displays, because I typically have my daisy chain one into another, and I just had my power there too. It was perfect. Now I have to plug in separately, and I have to carry my charger around, and that leads me into another major thing that I've noticed with a main difference between this computer and my old computer. My old computer, on average, if I really was pushing it and needed to be off the charger, I could easily get 5 to 6 hours of hard use with it. That was perfectly acceptable. It had these discrete graphics, and sometimes when it was running heavy stuff, it would get a little warm. It was working. That's understandable. But this one, the battery life is very inconsistent. So far today, I've had to use it on battery power for roughly maybe less than 2 hours, and the battery has dipped already over 40%. I think part of my problem might be down to some applications I used, because I noticed about a week ago when I was sick and not even on it at home from work, it was closed and in my bag. No one touched it. It wasn't open for a day. The battery dipped 20%. Now, like I said, I think part of it may have been due to an application we use for work that was stuck trying to check itself, because it's something that syncs and needs an internet connection for. So I think that could have been contributing to it, but I've been trying to run it today with that app completely off and actually uninstalled from the system to see what sort of battery life I get. I'm not that impressed with it, and I also don't like how, to shield this issue, Apple has removed the remaining time in the drop-down for the battery when it's on battery power from it. But one thing that I can note, the difference when it comes to recharging between this one and my old one, this one recharges a lot faster than my old one did with that separate power. So that's one benefit. It can recharge from 50% to full in less than an hour and a half, which is not so bad considering how large it is and what sort of connector it has and everything like that. I'm impressed with that. Let's see, getting back to the dongles. The dongle situation, I think, has also contributed to a problem I've seen happen that has slowed me down from being able to work twice, and I had spent about an hour or so trying to fix it. The first time this happened about 3 days into using this, and the weird thing was I got into my work, docked the computer, and my screens wouldn't wake. They wouldn't wake, and it also caused the computer to not want to wake for whatever reason. I had to try and reboot it, hard reset 3 times before it actually turned on and worked. It took me about 40 minutes to get everything working again, which was very peculiar. And then recently it happened again. This time I was only connecting to one screen, not both of them, and it took me about 25 minutes or so of restarting, reconnecting everything, reseating everything, trying different ports, and ended up, what fixed it that time was changing how I have my ports. Now typically I put both the power and the cable I'm using into the port that I'm connecting to on the same side. That way, if I have to take my computer from my desk and roam around the office with it, or if I'm leaving for the day, it's just 2 connectors on the same side, easy to pull out, faster, easy, it goes easier. But I had to move them and split them up and put one on each side to get them to wake. That was a weird way of fixing it, but it ended up fixing it, and then it didn't present itself again. So that's one peculiar little thing with it that I just don't understand that much. Another obnoxious thing that I've noticed with this particular one, and I've actually talked to a few other people in my office that have these devices in varying configurations to see if they've had the same problem, and none of them so far have told me that they have, is I typically, especially when I'm roaming around on battery power, turn off the backlit keys to save batteries. I do that with every laptop that I have. I do it with my personal 13, I did it with my previous 15 work computer, and it, squeaks out that little bit more battery power, because frankly, a lot of the time I'm in well-lit conditions, so I don't need a backlit keyboard for that. This one, though, for whatever reason, almost every other time I flip open the lid, even though I have it turned all the way down, it'll turn the keys on. Even if it's very faint, they're still on. And there has been occasions where I've gone to try and even turn it off, and the touch bar will not turn it any lower, because when I hit that, it pops up and shows that it's already off, yet they're still lit. I don't know. I don't know if this is a software problem. I don't know if it's a hardware issue. And another thing too, the trackbar does not seem to be as intuitive as they make it seem like it is. I know I've tried to use the shortcuts, because depending on if you're familiar with the macOS environment, when you're jumping from app to app, whatever apps you have open on your desktop, at the top the menu bar changes and its option changes with what's available, and basically the trackbar is an extension of that, so it changes dynamically as well, and it gives you shortcuts and a quicker reach instead of using the touch bar to select those things. And some of them are radically different, like when I'm jumping between Apple Remote Desktop and Mail and a web browser and a screen share and stuff like that, it changes, and sometimes it takes a second. It's really weird, but sometimes, like, I've tried to use the send for sending an email shortcut on the touch bar, and I have to tap it multiple times before it actually sends. Another thing, like I mentioned just previously in my last description, I use Apple Remote Desktop because I have to manage about 85 connected editorial stations, and I use my screen sharing a lot. Now, I've noticed when I am docked at my desk, sitting at it with my 2 screens or 1 screen on and my external mouse and keyboard, I have no issue screen sharing into these systems. It works flawlessly. There is not a problem. I cannot tell the difference between this computer and my old computer. However, when I am mobile and not docked, I have had trouble using my Apple Remote Desktop that sometimes requires multiple restarts of the application and sometimes even a couple of restarts of the system, as I discovered today when I was trying to do it remotely over a VPN connection. I just could not control it. Now, this could be partly due to my ISP because they don't deliver the speeds that I'm paying for, and I've had this problem ever since I've lived in this location. But I've noticed it at the office too, where sometimes I'm trying to screen share into an editorial system to figure out what's going on with it and why there's a problem, and my cursor disappears. Cannot find it. Sometimes it even locks up and nothing on the desktop responds. So I don't know what the cause of that is. I've tried uninstalling, I've tried restarting stuff, I've tried reinstalling, I've tried resetting up, and I'm getting the same result. So I don't know if that's a hardware issue or if it is a software issue. It sounds like it's probably a software issue, but yeah, I don't know. It's another annoyance that I'm just having issues with. But, you know, I was hoping with this device I could evaluate with, using it on a regular basis in my work environment, because I didn't buy this. This was assigned to me. It was given to me to try out to see, do we want to move this way for the laptops in our office? And honestly, and I was also thinking about considering maybe in a year or a few months or so replacing my 13-inch with one of these bad boys. I don't think I could recommend it personally, and I don't know if I would spend $3,000. I mean, and that's a mid-range price. They start at about, I think, $2,300, and they go all the way up to $43.99 in the United States, which is obscene for a laptop. Look, I can't honestly, in good faith, recommend buying a Mac Pro if you need a lot of horsepower right now, especially since it's been on the market for over 3 years now, and there hasn't even been a minor spec bump with it. The only thing they've done is drop the price of the internal storage in over 3 years, and I deal with those systems personally every single day. In fact, I have one sitting on my desk right now at work that I'm testing a new disk image on. And it's the same with these. Not that it's obsolete, it just, there seems to be a lot of glitches and problems with it. And frankly, I wouldn't recommend a laptop anyway for doing heavy creative work like video editing or graphics editing, or maybe Photoshop and doing photo editing. That might not be so bad. Now, I also have not tested this yet with a super high resolution display, which I should probably do that. I've got a 4K TV in my house that I can probably try to test to see how that performs, but I haven't done it yet, due to the fact that I left my converter at the office and I don't have an HDMI port. If I did, I'd probably be using it right now. But yeah, there are some issues with it, and frankly, if you're in the market for one, you may want to wait till the next generation if you're thinking, if you can. Or, I mean, this is going to be a rare endorsement for me, but maybe go the Windows route. Even though I hate Windows, I fucking can't stand it personally. I prefer working in the Mac environment, but I just don't know. I think it's a lot of money, and I don't think the average consumer wants to spend, in this case, $3,000. To put it in perspective for you, 6 years ago, what's sitting right to the left of me on the floor that you can't see, I've got a 2010 generation 8-core Mac Pro. The big cheese grater tower that weighs like 60 pounds. I love that computer to death. It has never put a foot wrong in the 6 years I've owned it. typically, well, at least for this computer, for its time, its sticker price was $3,500. I ended up paying just over $3,000 out the door for it when I bought it brand new in 2011. That was a good buy. This computer has lasted me 6 years, and it's still perfectly healthy and still kicking. So this, though, for that same price, no. Right now, in its current iteration, I wouldn't recommend buying one. And frankly, if I was the one footing the bill for this, I would have had some major regrets. But luckily, my company bought it for me, so I'm not out any pocket. And frankly, when it arrived, I was surprised by it. I was not expecting it, because it was kind of casually given to me. Here's your new computer. Okay, great. Sounds good. I'm not going to deny that I was hoping for it to be a cool thing, but frankly, right now, maybe some updates and stuff down the future will fix it, but yeah, I don't recommend it. Right now, actually, for my next computer, I'm considering buying one of the little 12 inches one, but I'm waiting to see, because I have a feeling there's going to be a refresh soon, that hopefully the next one, actually, they take, even if it only has one single port on it, I hope they bump it up to a Thunderbolt 3. That would be appreciative, but just have to wait and see. It'd also be about half the cost of that computer, so even if it was $1,500 or $1,600, I still get a discount when I buy one. It's still half as much as that one would be, and that's more palatable. But anyway, I just wanted to throw this out there that I've been dealing with this thing for almost a month, and right now it's been a fun battle. Well, it's actually been a frustrating battle, but it's been interesting to try. Like I said, some of these things can probably be fixed with software updates, but the hardware limitations, I can easily navigate, because also at my desk at work, I have a bunch of stuff plugged into one of my monitors. I've got a FireWire G drive plugged into one of them, and then I have a Thunderbolt 2 dock that works, that brings me back normal USB ports, and in that I've also got a Blu-ray ripper / burner plugged in over USB 3, and all that stuff works perfectly. I don't notice a difference when I'm docked, but other than that, when I'm mobile, and it's a laptop, so it should be a device that could go mobile without much issue. But yeah, there are just some things I just wouldn't really recommend right now, and you may just want to hold off if you can, if you're in the market for something like this. Yeah, right now, stay away. Save your money. Wait. Sometimes Apple's first-gen devices are not the greatest. So anyway, do your part. Blaspheme Daily. If you have any questions, or if you're curious about it, or if you own one of these things and you're having the same thing, feel free to post in the comments, and we can share our stories, I guess.